So, I think you already know what I'm going to say. One, seeing these new images of the big capitals is pretty cool. It's always great to see extra shots of the Idris, the Javelin, once again reminding us that these things exist in game. But at the same time, a few points. One, aren't they not supposed to be able to do this anymore? I mean, are these people cheering, or are they screaming while these ships come barreling down through the atmosphere because there's no towing ships here to lift them up, and they're about to kill them all? Right? I thought that was the way things work now, because I don't see any vertical thrusters on them. Oh well, just another mystery. But also, yeah, the Hammerhead's there. Cool. Hammerhead already flyable. Idris and Javelin are there. Those will be flyable once Squadron 42 is out in a couple of years. But isn't there someone missing from this lineup? Yeah, where is the Polaris? So, on a couple of occasions over the last couple of years, CIG has dropped a couple of little hints. Maybe the Polaris. Oh, possibly the Polaris. I mean, at one point last April, almost exactly a year ago, the Polaris might be going into production. And I honestly think that it's an interesting ship. Of all the capital ships, I think it is probably one of the most interesting. And even internally within Scum, I mean, we debate this ship very often, and we have, once again, we have started kind of going around and voicing our opinions, both pro and con, in regards to this ship versus the Hammerhead, because they are priced somewhat similarly, and many of us do have the mobility to go from one to the other. And so once again, we were debating this ship, and it kind of brought it to the forefront for me. And I was thinking about it again. I just went, yeah, where the hell is this thing? Why is this not in the game? You would think that a ship like this certainly would feature very prominently in Squadron 42. How come we don't have the Polaris yet? Now, certainly, CIG saying, we might put something into production, we may not put something into production, is nothing new. We've seen this before. Recently, with the Cutlass Red and the Cutlass Blue, they were going into production. We were seeing images of them. Then a week later, they had been bumped. And of course, we got the Constellation Phoenix, which of course arrived in the game to rave reviews. Sort of. But even when you look at the Cutlass Red and the Cutlass Blue, a lot of people may not remember that we actually got a flyable Cutlass Blue demo all the way back in 2015. Back in 2015, when we got the multi-crew demo, there was a ship in there. A lot of people were like, oh, hey, they're using the Cutlass, but it wasn't the standard Cutlass. It was the Cutlass Blue, based off of the old Cutlass Blue model, and they were flying it, and they were manning different positions in it. And so a lot of people said, oh my god, Cutlass Blue, any day now, they've shown it to us flying, so it's got to be, just moments and moments away. And yes, that is the Cutlass Blue. But, obviously it didn't have its jail cells in the back, but there it was. And then it vanished. But I'm at a point now where I'm wondering if maybe this isn't a good thing. That we haven't seen the Polaris yet, that the Polaris isn't in production yet. A lot of you might recall that when the 600i came out, there was quite a bit of unrest in the community over the interior design of that ship. And there were a lot of people who were quite disappointed in the way that ship was laid out. And some other ones who pointed out, ironically, that the 600i had more facilities for the storage of weapons and equipment than the Hammerhead did, which was a military ship, and a larger military ship at that. And the Hammerhead's issues, I mean, there's a lot of strengths to the Hammerhead. There's a lot of good things about the Hammerhead, but overall, the Hammerhead's issues have been very prominent, with an interior design seemingly primarily to deliver interesting FPS combat, something that may happen very, very rarely in that ship, and its emphasis on social areas instead of the actual mission of the ship, which is combat. There's a lot of missteps in the Hammerhead. While the Hammerhead remains a strong ship and a formidable ship, and a ship not to be underestimated, it does have its issues. And I'm starting to think about it in the sense that the Polaris being delayed until now could only be a good thing for the Polaris, because as you know, CIG is loath to go back and make changes to ships unless they already plan to do so anyways. We saw that with the Cutlass, and we've seen that with numerous ships since. Even minor suggestions for changes are often met with silence or just simply played off as, well, you know, that would, you know, it's not the way it was in the movie Alien, so we're not going to do it. When the real reason is because it would have to go back to art, and then someone would have to schedule that in, and we don't want to do that because we've already got a tight schedule as it is. Now, you know, when players think about ships like the Polaris, they think, oh, well, you know, it benefits from the RSI line. The RSI, you know, every art asset that's gone into another RSI ship is going to be able to hopefully be melded somehow into the Polaris, make it faster to build that ship. But they often forget that a lot of the player feedback also goes into the later designs, and you'll often hear me comment on the fact that the later ships that have been brought into Star Citizen are often a lot better than the original ships, because they've benefited from a lot of that player feedback and a lot of that, you know, this is something that's not really all that great, whereas CIG is not willing to go back and change the ship that you're talking about. The next ship down the road, they may go, oh yeah, we got to remember not to do that. Oh yeah, we got to remember a military ship should have weapons lockers and things like that. With the Polaris, I think that there's an opportunity there for CIG, and probably a very good chance that CIG is going to step forward with that ship and do a lot of things different than they did with the Hammerhead, and probably make a lot of improvements. So there's going to be a lot of things that they're more aware of going in that perhaps when they were developing the Hammerhead, they didn't know until it was too late, and then they didn't want to delay things even further, so they said, you know what, we'll just put it in and we'll fix it in maybe in a later version of the ship, an updated futurist, you know, much more futuristic version, something like the next year's model or whatnot, and the next ship that we produce is going to benefit from that knowledge. And in this case, it would be the Polaris would benefit not only from the art assets that they've gone and developed for the RSI line, but from the technical lessons they've learned in things like the Hammerhead, like the Idris, like the Javelin. So in a weird way, even though it may not be stronger than any of those ships in any certain areas or in one particular area versus another, it may be the strongest in terms of it will have the most, you know, live information, the most feedback, the most, you know, the most experience in building these ships focused into building it rather than the other capitals. So that could make it possibly one of the best ones in terms of livability and usability in the universe. Now, of course, the downside is when. You know, the perpetual question when dealing with anything Star Citizen is, yeah, but when? And the truth is that if previous ship builds are any indication, generally a ship of this size is going to take at least a year to be built, to be brought into the game and made flyable. At least a year. And even though the roadmap at the time of recording this is currently down for maintenance, it doesn't appear on the schedule this year. It's not there. So unless it's secretly being worked on, and there are certain secret projects, though generally those tend to be the ships that we're going to release next for sale, the new ships coming into Star Citizen, and not representative of ships that we think should be in production but aren't in production yet. So chances are, we will not see a flyable Polaris until 2021 at the earliest. And now, as I have a dog trying to jump up on me to tell me that it wants to go outside and play, I am going to have to go and take care of that. So that is going to be the show for today. Just a minute. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. All right, let's go. Come on.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.